curious about the funding.
Funding issues, okay.
Funding issue is most of the orchestra based on donations.
Yes. I would like to ask you, because most of the symphony orchestra in the world, they need a kind of a corporate donation or individual donation. So I'm curious about how does your orchestra live?
Well, yeah, I think that's a very good question. And I think that's one we do really I think that comes up a lot, and we really spend our time actually explaining how the orchestra itself works. But the first thing to note, as I mentioned also just now, we are not full time. We don't have a full season like, for example, the Malaysian Philharmonic or the SSO. We come together on a per project basis, and each project in itself has to be financially sustainable. For example, the Majestic Piano is actually it's underwritten by the PRIS Foundation. So PRIS Foundation is the one that actually funds the concert, but the Lord of the Rings is funded by ourselves. So, and obviously we're able to do that because it's a bit more mainstream kind of music, which will be more popular. And so that's why we feel confident with having it at the Star Theatre, and we're selling up to 10,000 seats. So to answer your question, so every project that we undertake, we put together musicians specifically for that project.
So I expect you can link that on the ticket sale, because when you start, at least you can sell 10,000.
Oh yeah, no, obviously that has to be the aim as well.
Yes. I always believe that we can apply the art of business in the business of the arts. And thank goodness for the past 16 years as an independent artist, I've never gone hungry. So I think if we are all being smart about what we're doing, we have a balance between the artistic work that we do and the so-called often frowned upon commercial work. I think we can make money, and we can make good money. So if we believe in what we do, we will be able to find people who believe in us and fund us. So I'm not too worried about funding, actually.
Yeah, sure. Actually, so the thing is that there is demand for an orchestra like the MFO. Just to bring up the Singapore Festival Orchestra, actually, which the model of which the MFO is based on. While we were operating that, actually we had a lot of, even though it was an orchestra that was set up to service the needs of the Singapore Arts Festival, the touring productions that came in, there were actually a lot of inquiries about, oh, I need an orchestra, how do I go about hiring a Singapore Festival Orchestra? Now, for various reasons, there were some projects that the SFOs were able to do, and there were other projects that we were not able to do. But it was very clear to us that there was this kind of a demand where you have, whether maybe it's a local production or it's an international touring production that comes into Singapore that needs a professional orchestra that is able to made of professional musicians, so they're able to rehearse within the week itself and be able to perform at a very high level. Which is if you go down the route of maybe getting an orchestra which is made up of a mix of amateur musicians and professional musicians, sometimes you take a little bit more time to rehearse, and sometimes you might not be so sure about the performance level that the international production requires. So that's why that's how we know that there was always a market for the MFO, and in fact, since publicly announcing our formation, we've actually had a lot of requests come in. So some of these engagements we're able to do, others we're still in the process of discussions. So, but there is a market out there, and there are people, and for various reasons they are willing and want to pay the money to hire the orchestra for different kinds of projects.
So the other question is, I believe a lot of conductors, they go overseas for training, but they come back to Singapore, there's no orchestra allowed them for practice. So do you think MFO can provide people amateur or professional conductor, as long as they are willing to pay the kind of reasonable sum. So,
actually, that's a very good question. And, you know, as somebody who trains conductors, it's quite close to my heart. However, I think there is a difference between an opportunity to train a conductor and something that is for enterprise. And enterprise has to do with a combination of factors, including entrepreneurial factors, clearly related to business, and then at the end there is the product. And there is very little time to deliver the product. If I could just bring you back to what Jia Hua mentioned earlier about this cross between, you know, an orchestra that's made up of fully professional musicians and one that's made up of a mixture. If you, all right, let's take the Lord of the Rings as an example. Let me give you a little idea of the scale of the project. First of all, in addition to the operations team here, plus the 100 musicians, plus the 150 chorus, and there is a children's choir as well. In fact, if you just Google Lord of the Rings and listen to the music, you will, I think, understand why we are so excited about such projects. But the project's actually much bigger than that. There's all the staff at the Star Warming Up Center. And for those of you who haven't been in there, this is a wonderful opportunity as an excuse to go in there. It is absolutely huge. You know, there are not many covered auditoriums of that size. And then there's the team of 10 that will be coming from US and around the world to support the project. And each one of them bring their individual areas of expertise, including Justin Freer, the conductor. A lot of work has already been done, and there will be more work to do before they arrive. When they arrive, it's literally a few days before the performance. All of it needs to come together. And there is the technical crew as well. I mean, the people who would be in charge of making the orchestra sound the way it should, making sure that the choir and the orchestra is well balanced, making sure that there is enough lighting, all of that. So it's actually quite an operation. I would liken it to an aircraft carrier. You know, with an aircraft carrier, we only see the airplanes flying off the aircraft carrier, right? We don't see the work that the 3,000 people do who live and work on the aircraft carrier. And for me, that's an extremely exciting part of this type of project. And you know, nowadays we train musicians to be entrepreneurial. Why do we do that? We do that because more likely than not, they're going to be involved in this type of activity, you know, as Eugene's mentioned before. And so they need different kind of background. So yes, we are very interested to work with all conductors, but we are also interested to see what they can bring to MFO. Yeah, thank you. And actually with that it ties in very nicely with the question I wanted to ask Albert, and he was spent for some time already, is how is the collaborative process between the IFC and the MFO and this Lord of the Ring project?
Well, basically IFC provides the adult chorus for this project. So we basically provide an added dimension to the orchestra's music. Just as you know, Beethoven's 9, 3 movements of orchestral music. In the 4th, the finale, you suddenly have the the chorus and the soloist coming in. It makes for a huge dramatic moment. And I think in terms of musical synergy, what the chorus brings to the table is that those moments of drama, as well as those moments of beautiful, soft silences and quiet singing, that adds a huge dimension to the overall sound palette, musically speaking.
Great, and for those of you who are interested in the Lord of the Ring, the Fellowship of the Ring, it's actually showing on 6th, 7th and 8th of June. It's at 7:30. It's going to be at the Star Theatre. That's the one next to the Buona Vista MRT station. Tickets are very cheap, 188, 128, 98 and 58. Okay, I mean, if you have to think about the kind of logistics one has to bring on for this project, it's actually very cheap. I mean, short of flying to Australia or New York to see it, you have to add 1,000 or 2 for air ticket and accommodation and all that. This is actually very cheap. And if for more information, again, you can go to the SISTIC website for that. All right?
Sorry, Jeremiah, I just want to jump in. Actually, there's another tier of ticket that is at 228, which we recently open to public sales. These are actually just a small plug. These are usually when you go to a concert hall, you would expect that the stall seats are the best seats. But because of the type of project that this is, you have the orchestra on stage, the chorus behind, and you have the screen above the orchestra. So actually, the best line of sight is actually at the circle 1. And so we have a chunk of seats there, which you really get to watch the movie at eye level, but you get to see the orchestra as well. So it's really quite a fantastic experience.
Just to add, just a couple of things. First of all, in relation to what Albert mentioned about the role of the two choirs, I mean the adult chorus and the children's choir. Actually, in the performance, they provide many of the goosebump moments, be it really loud or almost inaudible. And in relation to what Jia Hua was mentioning, there are some interesting technical details as well. For instance, the screen, which obviously the movie is projected on. Well, that screen you can't find one this size in Singapore, right? So we had to look for it elsewhere. Projector is special as well. I mean, there's a lot that comes together. The music, of course, is a terrific score. No, in my opinion anyway, no less great than a lot of the stuff that Mr. Ludwig von Beethoven here had come up with. And Albert talked about Beethoven's Ninth, which of course we think of today as one of the great iconic works of orchestra and chorus. The scale of the achievement and enterprise of something like the Lord of the Rings is sort of like our modern day equivalent. I'm sure if Beethoven had these resources, he would have tried. I'm absolutely sure. It's just that I never had a chance to confirm it with him.
It's actually decomposing right now. Any other questions? I just waited that moment for it. Yes, sorry. Can I just give this lady a chance first? I'll come back to you. Yes? Yeah.
I would like to hear about some of the future projects that you are looking at. Like for example, will you be looking at just film music or something? Because I know that like what he has said just now, because SSO has also projects reaching out to the young audiences. So do you have any direction that you're going looking at, like for example film music, or you're open to any suggestions?
Well, actually, that's a very good question. You see, we tend to associate symphony orchestras with a particular genre of music, Western art music, in its orchestral form. But in the modern day, the orchestra has been used for so many other things. I mean, as you heard earlier, you find it not only in the concert hall, and nowadays you find it on Final Fantasy, as an example. So all of those genres, anything that showcases an orchestra, anything that an orchestra can contribute to the enjoyment and the reward of an audience, we're interested. However, directly answer your question about sorry about that gesture, about what's coming up next. Well, perhaps the best answer I could give you is to tell you that these are actually massive projects, and they're actually a massive business. And although we would love to announce what we might like to do, we can't actually do it until it's been signed on the dotted line. And that's something that comes up of respect for our collaborators who are thousands of miles away, who are going to bring all of you more than this. And of course, Jia Hua has already hinted that this is one part of a trilogy. So watch this space.
Well, I can only tell you it's huge. Yes, sir?
I read from paper that about this interview you and Mr. Jason Lai. So in 2015, I think your orchestra is playing Mahler 8th Symphony. So I'm curious that how are these things is going to happen 2 years later?
Well, actually, that's exactly the same question that the reporter asked me. And I didn't really have an answer for her. So I said that the impossible was possible. I'll probably start worrying about that after the Lord of the Rings. Yeah. But you know, there is a difference between a project like that is brought together by young volunteers with a great passion for the arts, and something like this that is technically quite intricate and requires a lot of professional expertise. And when the professionals come together, they have very, very little time to do it. And so, of course, we like to talk about the fact that we're in the arts because we do what we love to do, and we like to do it on a daily basis. Right? What we don't often talk about are the pressures and the stresses related to us pursuing our passion. There's going to be a lot of that, and we hope you don't see it. What we hope is that you would come and enjoy the movie and this fantastic soundtrack. And also, perhaps a week before that, come and get reacquainted with Beethoven.
Watch the space. Any other questions? I think on this side. On this side. Anyone?
Can I ask one?
Yes.
I was wondering, how do you intend to alter people's experience of Lord of the Rings with live orchestral music?
Sorry, what was that? How do you intend to alter the experience of the audience? Oh, I see. In Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, that isn't our intention at all. You know, 1,000 people can go to the same performance and take 1,000 different things away from that performance. We cannot prescribe what we feel the audience should bring away from the performance. It's up to the audience. What we can do is try and put up as good a representation of what the art form is about, and we let the audience decide. That's the best we can do. Perhaps artists would like to do what you mentioned. That could be an ideal, but that could also be slightly presumptuous on the part of you performer. And I think Eugene probably wants to add something.
Just to let you know that in the course of a year, you might experience a performance of a Beethoven symphony and then end up in Perth or Melbourne and listen to the same thing, and you might well ask the same question: do you intend for someone to have their readership altered by listening to the same thing? And some people enjoy Tchaikovsky 1, and they would go year on end anywhere else to find it. They'd even have recordings of it. And it's an interesting question you raise, and in a sense, it's no longer a question of how you intend to alter the reader, but it's a question of the way in which a reader can be altered by the experience, and in this particular case, the live experience.
Very true. Any other questions from anyone else? If not, I have one very important question. That is, if I'm a musician and I'd like to join the MFO, how would I go about doing it?
Well, it's much less complicated than you think. We have a terrific website. There are email links on the website. Write to us.
So is there an audition required?
No, we do not audition.
Okay. So how do you then admit or choose or assess that musician then?
Well, in a way that's possibly as effective, if not more effective, than an audition. In my various roles, I encounter auditions quite often. Auditions give a snapshot of what a person is able to do at a particular point in time. A window, if you like. The environment of an audition isn't always the most natural or the most conducive for us to see what people can really offer. In fact, it can sometimes be so out of context to what we're really looking for. And so we thought that if that were the case, we might as well skip the whole process altogether. And so people who write to us, we will be interested to know what they have done, how they're qualified, which orchestras they've worked with, why they want to do this, and we take it from there.
So if you're a professional musician and you'd like to join the MFO, all you need to do is click on to www.metropolitan.sg and find out more about it. And next question to Albert, perhaps the last one for the day, is if I were wanting to sing in The Lord of the Rings, how do I go about joining the IFC?
My goodness. We actually have limited vacancies because of fire safety regulations and everything. So if you do want to join IFC, because we are so close to the performance now, if you have previous experiences in singing in choirs and you're a good musician, you can write in to recruit@singaporeifc.org. And my committee will take it from there, and hopefully we can see some of you, but we're almost full already, so.
Okay, that would be good. All right, since there are no other questions, just one more round just to check. If no other questions, just watch the space. Okay, the first space definitely is the Majestic Piano. It's going to be showing at SOTA Concert Hall on the 1st of June. Tickets are $22 and they are available right now. And the second one, 10,000 tickets, okay? Up for grabs. You just have to pay 228, 188, 128, 98 and 58, and it's the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Rings, which is showing on the 6th, 7th, 8th of June this year at 7:30 at the Star Theatre. That's the theatre next to the Buona Vista MRT station, and join us.
The movie is included.
The movie is included. Okay, free for you. I think the moment you say free, Singaporeans will come. The movie, but you have to pay for the ticket for the orchestra. Okay, it's been a wonderful evening having you here with us, just to have a quick listen to the newly formed MFO, and I'm really very excited about the new orchestra and seeing what they are doing. I'm definitely going for the Lord of the Rings, so I'll see you there, and have a good weekend. Thank you very much. Thank you, Eugene. Thank you, Albert. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful work.
Thank you. Thank you. It's all in the CV. Nothing to do with me, but we